Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Abby. If you're here for the first time, thank you and welcome. And I hope you join the family by clicking the subscribe button just right on your screen. And when you do, please turn on your notification bell as well. That way you get notified whenever there's a new video on this channel, and there'll be new videos every week. I'm a Nigerian immigrant living in Canada, and this channel is pretty much about that journey and everything else in between. So welcome. And to my returning subscribers, thank you ever so much. In today's video, I'd like to discuss with you or share with you, some mistakes that new immigrants make when they get to Canada. Now, obviously, this is me speaking from my experience as well as pulling from some other people's experience around me and sharing that with you. So if you're getting ready to move to Canada, please take note of these mistakes and learn from them. I'm going to be sharing some of my personal experiences as well. The first thing I'd like to say is not being flexible in your settlement choice. That is your province or your city. Obviously, a lot of people consider and prefer to live in certain parts of this country compared to others, and that's fine, but I'd say do your research and be flexible and be open to other options. There's certain people who, from the time they decide to migrate down to Canada, they've decided they want to live in a particular city. As time goes on, probably due to more research, you'll probably find out that, listen, that city is not going to work for me. I better change my mind and figure out where it is that's going to work for me. So that's what I'm saying. Be flexible and be open enough to realize that some place might not work for you. And likewise, some people arrive here and a couple of months into living in a particular city or province that they decided to realize it actually isn't working for me. And be true and honest to yourself. If that's the situation and if you are considering moving to someplace else that you feel might work best for you. Obviously, when you're choosing a province or a city to live in Canada, there's so many factors that you need to think about. You need to think about the cost of living, you need to think about taxes, you need to think about so many things, perhaps even weather. So you need to think about so many factors and then decide what works best for you. Please don't decide to live in a city or in a province simply because that's what a lot of people are going, that's what a lot of people are settling in. Do what works best for you. Do what works best for you. You can't afford to join a bandwagon and then you get here. You settle in the place that you think is the hit place, and then you become miserable simply because you do not fit in that province or in that city. Secondly is, don't compare your journey or your life with anybody else. It's very difficult to be an immigrant or a new immigrant in a particular country, and you sort of figure out or you sense that quite a number of people are doing much better than you are in terms of living, in terms of earning a living, and in terms of the industry they're working in or job choice and all of that. But the reality is, you really never know who has the best, to be honest. And I'm sure, this is probably a general life principle, and it also applies to the mistakes some new immigrants make. You come into a country, you meet XYZ, and all of a sudden you feel like, oh, this person has XYZ more than I do, or I have more education or more qualification than XYZ, and therefore I should have more than them. Calm down. When you come here, you may find that some people that are not as qualified as you are earning a better living than you. My point really is, we all have different life's journey, right? So be content in what you have, and obviously aspiring to be better. Just don't compare what somebody is doing with yourself. Run your own race and focus on yourself, and don't put yourself under undue pressure because you feel this person is doing much better than you, even though you arrived in Canada before them and all of that. Focus on your focus, as my people, Nigerians would say. Just focus on yourself, focus on your dreams, your aspirations, and just keep your eye on the prize and keep living your life. Things are bound to get better. And that takes me to my next point. Research, research, research. obviously as a newcomer in a new environment, there's so many things that just gets lost on you. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where information is just right at the tip of our fingers. You might not necessarily have that one person or several people to call here as a new immigrant and ask a truckload of questions about how things work here and all of that. So my advice to you is, if you're considering migrating to Canada, please do your research. I got a couple of questions, you know, on my social media handles about life in Canada. Just basically people asking me questions about their prospective decisions, you know, in terms of moving to Canada. And I do my absolute best, you know, to answer the questions. But at the same time, it is very advisable that you do your research, especially prior to landing here. There really isn't anything as brilliant as having information at your fingertips just as you're arriving, so you already know what to do, who to call, you already know the agencies you need to speak with, and that sort of puts you on an accelerated trajectory, right? So you're not slacking behind in anything. You get here and you apply for all of the things you need to apply for, and you just sort of settle in easily. So please do your research, do your research, do your research. My next point is, please don't get here and you blow up all your money in your first few months simply because you feel like, yes, I've arrived, I need to flex. It doesn't work that way. My advice is, I've heard of quite a number of people who've arrived in Canada and their rent, the cost of their apartments is so exorbitant. Now, it's not in my place to decide what is exorbitant for anybody, right? But my advice is be quite sensible in your spending choices. You know, think about long term, think about how long it might take for you to get a job, and just sort of have that mental note, a mental calculation of what you're probably going to be earning when you get a job vis-a-vis what you've saved and what you brought into Canada as your proof of funds and all of that. Just make sure that you're not going to go and blow your money on some $5,000 per month apartment when you haven't even started working. It doesn't work that way. Now, I'm going to share this story with you. One of the mistakes that I made personally when I arrived to Canada was I wasn't quite clear how transportation worked in the city that I landed in, which is Calgary. I think for me, the problem is that I was coming from, I lived in the UK, you know, for so many years. And if anything, if there is anything that anybody will tell you they probably love the city of London for, is their amazing, absolutely amazing again, absolutely amazing public transportation. That is the buses and the trains and all of that. So to be honest, yeah, I wasn't expecting anything probably as superb, because again, I sort of, you know, done a bit of research and all of that, but nothing was as conclusive for me as experiencing it when I got here. Meaning that when my family and I landed, we didn't take our time to study, you know, transportation routes and all of that, and there were quite a few times that we blew up a lot of money on taxis. It was ridiculous. There was a time where I had to go someplace which was essentially the other side of town, the extreme end of town. Actually, the extreme end of the other side of town. You know, just to put things in perspective, it was quite a far location. And when the taxi got there, and we said, okay, so how much is our fare? And the driver said $87. I'm like, eh? I was, for like a minute, probably even longer, I was so silent and quiet, and I was angry in my spirit, like, $87, come on. But we had to pay, Now, later that day, we then, when I say we, my husband and I, then sat and now did a mapping of how we would have gotten there taking public transport, and I was just like, oh my goodness, $87. It took me probably a few days, you know, to get over $87 for a taxi fare. I don't want you to make that mistake when you get here. So when you get here, first of all, study your community, study how the city transit, that's the transportation network, works in that community, in that area, and to other parts of the city as well. If you can figure it out, and you're lucky enough to have to live in a place where you can get a bus to the LRT station and just connect to the LRT and just get the bus really, actually, or maybe even get buses that take you to your destinations, please tap into that. Taxis are quite expensive here, and you don't want to spend a huge chunk of what should be your savings on taxis and just moving around the city. So tap into the city's transportation network and maximize that opportunity. It's something that I didn't do, and sometimes I still pinch myself. You know, I mean, I do have a few more taxi stories, but I don't want to bore you. But yes, my husband and I spent so much, in fact, too much on taxi fares when we just arrived here, and that was just simply because we didn't take time to figure out how the network, the transportation network, worked in the community that we arrived in. Another point is build your network. Canada is too big for you to be lonely. Canada is too big for you not to have a community around you. Now, I know it's not easy, especially when you arrive and you don't know anybody. I didn't know anybody in the city I didn't know anybody in my city when I first arrived, but I was able to make connections, and then from there, you know, I was able to a few WhatsApp groups, you know, for Nigerian community, for women community, and from there, you know, I've met wonderful people, you know, that I consider sisters, brothers, and it's just been an amazing ride. You know, please build your network. A lot of jobs here are based on referrals, and you want to put yourself in an advantage situation where people are able to say, oh, I have this friend, or I have this acquaintance who I feel has this qualification for this job and that job. You know, you want to put yourself in a situation where you need help, you're able to call on people to help you. You want to put yourself in a situation where you're not sort of living in isolation. You know, like I said earlier, Canada is too big for you to be all by yourself. Please, irrespective of the fact that you're an extrovert or you're an introvert, I suppose, you know, everybody has their boundaries. So please, please, please build a network for yourself. It is absolutely important that you do so as a new immigrant in Canada. So yes, those are the mistakes to avoid making when you arrive in Canada as a new immigrant. If you haven't subscribed to my channel at this point, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. And also, kindly leave me a comment in the comment section and let's get the conversation going. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.